And we are live for another live stream on a Sunday night, Paul.
Yeah, Sunday. As I say every week, it soon comes round, doesn't it? And all good. I hope everybody's had a good week. Les, have you?
Yeah, I've been busy. I've been putting some items together for the TruthProof YouTube channel, yeah. So it's all been good.
Excellent.
And I've been filming a little bit yesterday as well, so that's even better. Managed to push all the cobwebs off, from Christmas period, which is always good, isn't it, Paul, to get out? And
excellent. Well, I think I've been up and around area not probably 4 times this week, pretty late into night. Nothing happened, but I've got one little report from somebody this week, but we can touch on that later. So, yeah.
Yeah, so welcome everybody to tonight's live stream then, from if you're in the UK or anywhere around the world, and especially for a new viewer, listener, welcome to the stream, especially for you lots. And let's see who's in the chat tonight then, Paul. Can you see any names? I'm just going through, Phil.
Yeah, we've got Fred Flintstone, Rebecca King, Steve Tees, Welsh Dragon, what is it? Gablier, I think it's Adam Sandor, Sober Carper, Sam Shelley, hi Sam, Richie White, Richie, loads of people are familiar, and loads, and the Leveler, I think we know who that is, Les, we've filmed this guy, and Steph, Outer Limits Magazine, which is all good, so at 40 and 23, Danny Egan, and I know there's people, Rebecca King, that I've missed, but as fast as I'm saying it, Joel Burgess is there. Hi, Joel. Lynn is in. I know Pete will be listening, who comes to Bempton with me just about every time I go up there, which is a brilliant help. And I think Bob is in as well. Karen Behrman, Lee. I've got to stop because as fast as I'm doing it, Carol Wilson, Rod, Paul Flanagan. We'll just do a name check night tonight, people. So anybody I've missed, apologies.
Yeah, nice and relaxed tonight, Paul. So really, we are question led on a Sunday night, as most of you regulars will already know. So if you've got anything you want to discuss, and if you've got any recommendations for guests as well, that would be great, wouldn't it, Paul?
It would be, yeah. I mean, we had a question earlier, Les, didn't we? That I was telling you about the Mothman prophecies.
Yeah. And we did.
It were. Go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we'd covered the Mothman with Steve.
It was Steve Ward.
Steve Ward who covered the Mothman.
And if anybody would like him back on, because I know it was Alison who messaged us to say, Lorraine, not Alison, Lorraine who messaged to say she'd like to know more about the Mothman prophecies. And rather than me speak about it as though I'm some kind of authority, which I'm not, I think we'd be better off getting Steve back to cover some points he didn't cover last time. But in a nutshell, I think we're talking about Point Pleasant, 1966-67, when people were seeing allegedly seeing this huge bird stroke moth type creature. And it was reported to be a portent of doom. But that's where my knowledge starts and stops on it. If anybody in chat wants to add a little bit more, feel free to do so. And we'll say once again, we love the questions because that's what we want to do for this hour. So if you want to fill it up with some block capital questions for Alison, she'll fire them across to Les or myself.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm just going to pick up on a video that's been circulating, Paul. And it was mentioned on Thursday's live stream. And it's about this jellyfish.
Okay.
I'll just stick that on the screen now. And if I can get that to play, probably most people on here have maybe seen this footage. But it was sourced, as it says in the top right, by Jeremy Corbell. And and it was taken in Iraq, as it says in the captions there. And it's whatever's on that screen at the bottom right. It's certainly odd.
And obviously we're here to ask what people think of this, because my first reaction is it's a piece of debris on screen, but then you see it move past the crosshairs. So what's happening there? I don't know. It's a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this on?
Yeah. Thermal. Yeah. Thermal taken by handheld camera. It's a handheld
not giving
camera.
off a heat signature, though, is it? It's not giving off a heat signature as such, because it must be on black hot, because there were some dogs in frame earlier and they were black.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Les.
Oh, sorry,
Any
infrared,
views?
isn't it? It's infrared, not thermal.
Infrared, is it? Yeah,
IR,
right,
yeah,
okay.
not thermal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got
You can
infrared
see
at
how
the
much
top.
I've looked at this. Yep.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, whatever it consists of. But yeah, I think there was a guy sat with his legs out the helicopter with a handheld infrared, taking this footage. That's the information I got back.
And this guy, has he been traced, or has the footage leaked and it's just we can't
I have no
possibly
idea.
say? All right, fair enough.
Yeah, no idea. Okay, so enough of that one.
I saw a question earlier that disappeared, and can we have that one back up, Les?
Oh, the question that came up, and let's have a look. Let me get in there. Right. Was it this one, Paul?
Just been reading it in the bath, have you? Well done, Ben. The three lights we saw under the sea. Well, if Bob Brown's in chat, obviously he's not going to be able to speak, but I ought to have had him sat outside of me here, because he'd tell you, did it scare me? No. It was evening, but it weren't quite dark. Bob will tell you at date, he wrote it down, but something tells me it was August 2017, and we'd been for a walk along clifftops and saw these three lights in sea. Three of anything's going to form a triangle unless they're in a line, we know, but they look like a perfect triangle and they were quite large. Got photographs of them, as you'll know if you've just read or you're reading Truth Proof 3. So, no, they didn't scare us. They didn't feel threatened or anything, really, just puzzled by three lights under the sea, Ben.
Well, there's a question for you. Where you saw the lights under the sea, and then was it last year or the year before? You saw this research. You saw this research vessel, or you known of a research vessel in that area. Was that over the same area of the sea? Do you think
it were in the same area? It were off Bempton, and that vessel were patrolling up and down, mapping something. It had got all sorts of equipment on it. That's when we've read about it. Yeah. And I'm trying to think. I think it might have been Linny who found out where it were based during when it weren't in water, and it was somewhere up North Yorkshire.
Yeah, was it Newcastle way, wasn't it?
No. It's up near Forests where we filmed Wolflands, believe it or not.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, the research vessel we'd seen a few months before. Right, the lights in the sea that Ben's referring to were 2017. We saw lights last year, September time. Both myself, Peter, and Linny, who's in chat. Peter's not in chat, but he'll be watching this. He'll be grinning to himself now because he just keeps a little bit covert. So we saw lights twice last year under sea.
Yeah,
and this research vessel as well, which makes it interesting. What were that doing? And could the lights under sea be something perfectly mundane? You know, like, I don't know, what a sort of drone type submarine, small one. It's possible, isn't it? I mean, you know, not everything's got to be alien related, but we saw the lights nevertheless.
No, brilliant that, Ben. And Ben, please don't drop that book into the bath.
It's a book.
A book, yeah. I've said it, book. Right, well, I've got another question here then from Rod. Paul, have you looked into the ILF phenomenon with tide times? That's interesting.
Yeah, yes.
Any trends then? Is there any trends?
I have done, well, mainly, Rod, because when I were looking into the missing people, I were looking at tide times to try and find out when they'd gone missing, where the tide would be at any given time below these cliffs. Bearing in mind, in some of these locations, it never leaves the bottom of the cliffs. You know, so you've got water all year round, but in other locations, you've got rocky outcrops. So, yeah, I did. And the phases of the moon, interestingly, because obviously that's dictating the tide. So, yeah, I did look at those factors as well. And interestingly, some of a large proportion of the people that went missing on a waning gibbous moon. Don't ask me why, but you just noted it. And on a Thursday. But so, and we're not looking at hundreds of people here. We're only looking at, 10, 12 people that I've looked into, but it's still a lot in a little area. And let's before we end this, let's not attach UFOs or cryptids to these missing people. We simply don't know. And as I always say, the reason that I've investigated them or looked into them is because they've gone missing in an area where things of an highly unusual nature take place. So yeah, thank you.
Fred Flintstone. Paul, do you go up to Bempton alone at night? Would you advise against?
I would advise against it. I used to go alone all the time, Fred. And I don't so much now. I found myself up there alone actually once about 2 weeks ago. But I think I'm in the same camp as everybody else. Due to volume of reports from other people and the things that they've seen and experienced, it kind of makes you aware of the potential that something could happen. And being on your own leaves you quite vulnerable, doesn't it? You know, in any situation. So yeah, we usually there's at least two of us. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, there were 6 of us up there for a couple of nights. You know, and one guy, proper dedication, lives up near RAF Fylingdales and comes down. He spent 2 nights up there with us because of the things he'd seen at Bempton, and it's just intrigued him so much. So he's been coming down since well before Christmas, a couple of nights a week. And yeah, I would advise against it, Fred. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for safety reasons, it's well fenced off from the cliff edge.
It's fenced off, Les. Yeah, you're spot on for about a mile either side. Probably no, not even a mile either side. And after that, it's not fenced. You know, you venture too close, and you know you could come to a sad end.
Oh yeah, and if you've no moon out there, then obviously you need flipping good head torches, etc. Don't you?
Yeah. I'd just note that before we put question up about lights under sea. I see Linny's just put up, the Navy was there the next night up and down for hours where the lights had been under the sea. He's spot on, because he were with me and Pete when we saw the lights under the sea. It's great having some backup, and it's not just Paul saying this, because he saw them as well. You know, and then there were a Navy frigate up and down. You know, so is it just coincidence? We don't see them often.
No. Well, they're only going to turn up when there's some incidents at the ball, really.
Some incident, or they're doing some exercise and they were responsible for lights. My gut feeling is, well, I don't know what were responsible for lights, because we, as I've said before, when you're stood on those cliff tops, depending on where you are, 200 foot, 300 foot, 400 foot, you've got between 14 and 22 miles to horizon.
Yeah.
These things, this light on one of the nights, literally, to us, we thought it were probably 4 or 5 miles out, and it disappeared to horizon within a minute. Do you know what I mean? And we thought it had gone. Then it come back and split into 2. So interesting. And we got it on film, and it's in night, people, so using a psionics camera. So even though footage is grainy, it's still there, and it's evident that it's lights. And I put the camera into the sky to prove there's no moon up or anything like that.
Well, we've got a suggestion for a guest, Paul.
Yeah, Nick
from
Redfern.
Ian Abbott, Nick Redfern, and we've been talking about Nick Redfern as a potential guest as well, haven't we, Paul?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I mean, he's produced some or written some amazing books, and I agree. And it'd be great to talk about the Mothman, as was Mike Ward, you know, just before Christmas. So yeah, there's a good suggestion. I'll kind of reach out. I know that. He's good friends with Josh Turner, who we've had on live stream. So Josh has probably got more chance of reaching Nick than me. So I'll contact Josh and see whether he'll have a word with him.
All right. I've got a question from Rick Allen.
I see Mary's in. Mary Sinclair, that's my wife. I'm my wife. She's not spoke to me all day.
Well, we won't go there, Paul. Rick Allen, is there any occult activity manifesting in Bempton?
Hi, Rick. 1980, right? 1970, when RAF base closed, and it became it just disused, and it were open to the elements, and people used to go in there doing a bit of exploring, and people went in and obviously robbed cable and copper from it. But it were also used by a satanic cult. And so during the 1980s, in the first book, I thought it was just rumor. But I found out a lot more. I'm not going to go into sort of graphic detail because some of this is what I'm going to be talking about at the Awakening conference. But yeah, there has been occult activity up there around those cliff tops. And every time I mention the RAF base, I need to just say straight away, it's private land. Don't advise anybody go on it. And the underground facility, the Type 1 rotor, this concrete bunker, is out of bounds to everybody. So I'm not promoting going on it. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, there has been occult activity up there. And I wonder, Rick, if what people are seeing in some instances are a result of some of the things that took place up there. You know, I mean, we go to places, I mean, and with the intent of looking for unexplained phenomena, and you know, we go to places where people have seen things, experienced things, and these cryptid type creatures, they don't belong up there. There's nowhere for anything like that to hide. We know that these things can't possibly exist in true sense of the word, yet people still report seeing them. It's not Paul sat here saying I've seen these things. It's other people, independent to me. So are they a result of that? I don't know. Answers on a postcard. Dark side of ufology. Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about at the Awakening, the darker side of ufology. And there is a darker side, without a doubt. Okay, Les.
Yeah, let's see. Right,
Jojo's in, Margaret Webster, Ralph Winter, Adam Sandor, Forrest. Right, all right.
From Alan Brown. The video that is from 2017, Jeremy Corbyn just released, can only be seen in infrared.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. And right then, there we go. We've got a 1423. I saw a close-up photo of the jellyfish today, and it actually looks like a person in some sort of suit. Could it be new technology?
Well, it's interesting you say that, Les. I mean, because I've never even looked at this, and you've put the film up, and I've not really looked at it in any detail. But when we got that close-up, you could imagine like a backpack and little legs, couldn't you? I don't know. Is it mountain rescue? I mean, obviously, there's not what I'm suggesting it is, by the way. Let me finish my question or my thoughts. Is it mountain rescue that are sort of experimenting with the jetpacks? I have seen it, and they've been experimenting with jetpacks to get to people who've injured themselves, broken legs on sides of mountains, to get to them really quick. And it did show you some TV clips. And we know these aren't jetpacks, people, but I suppose anything's possible if they're considering using jetpacks to get up a mountain in sort of 10 minutes, what would normally take an hour and a half, 2 hours to climb. Anything's possible. I
think you make a good point, because jetpacks, they're not new technology. They've been around for decades, haven't they? Jetpacks. So yeah, it's not beyond belief that could be what's seen on the screen of some sort. Let's have a look then. What's this one? Karen Bierman, have you heard of any other
gnome elemental encounters? Yes.
Yeah.
At Carnaby, and I will try and get this man on, even if we have him blurred out, and I will reach out to him, because at Carnaby there's a guy there, and Linny knows him. Great big garden, beautiful acre of garden, and he's got a stone circle in his garden, and one part of it's hedged off, and he's built a right ornate solid oak door that kind you'd see in a church, really, and it really is a good piece of workmanship. And he held his grandson, I think it was his grandson, and walked to the door and knocked on it and said, "Shall we see if the fairies are in?" Because they'd thought they'd seen these elemental type creatures. And his wife's filming him, and you can see this little thing fly in, which myself and Chris Turner, they allowed us to use on Bringing Down the Light, of this footage of this little gold, I don't know what it is. It looks to have arms and legs and wings. So elemental type creatures, encounters, is that what it is? I set trail cams up in his garden probably for a couple of months,
Yeah.
and all we caught were blackbirds and squirrels. But when you look at trail cams and everything else where they're trying to catch the cryptid type phenomena, nobody catches them on film. And this is another one, Karen, that I never even thought I would consider looking into. But there's more and more people talking about seeing these things.
And that leads me on to the last Thursday live stream, what we did with Irina Scott, who actually put trail cams up, knew something had happened, but the trail cam never picked it up. It was one frame and then it jumped.
That's correct.
Forward in time, yeah. So
she'd placed, if people hadn't heard this, she'd placed a 100 to 150 pound deer that had been probably knocked down by a car or something in the wood at the back of her farm, and they put trail cams on it. And one moment the deer was there, in the images, and the next it had gone. They never saw anything take it. They never saw it go. Then they looked into the woodland, and it's just been stripped of everything. It's gone. It's just bone, which is fascinating, really. And what would have took that?
Yeah, I mean, for want of another word or any word, entities to be able to control cameras like that, it's beyond our.
Is it the speed? I mean, I don't know, or is it just? You see, if it was invisibility, can't render the deer invisible, can it? You'd think you'd see in a frame the deer moving. But 1 minute it's there, the next it's gone. But I think it was. Is it?
Can you set the intervals on these cameras? So you could set it to do one frame every 5 minutes. Maybe it's an interval setting then that requires you to shorten that interval to be able to catch moving objects.
Well, I take 10 pictures with mine.
Yeah,
I can set it for 5, 10, and it'll take 10 pictures in a burst, and then it's up to me whether it. Like you said, I can set it for another minute or whatever. So I mean, there could be a valid reason, but
okay, we've got this from Joel. I'd like to something about that scene on 11th of the moon on the moon. When I went for a walk up Dyke, Paul will have an idea what I'm on about this. Paul will have an idea what I'm on about this. Yeah. Saw something on the 11th on the moon, right?
Yeah, because Joel left me a message today to say that he'd been up there for
that's interesting.
A daytime walk.
Yeah.
Ended up getting there as it was just getting dark, which he does quite often, so it's not unusual. Joel will walk around there in darkness. And came back along the cliff tops, but got a little bit disorientated, which is odd if you know area, which is in itself, but that's what he said. Ended up in some marshy ground, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Joel, you felt like something was following you. You felt like you were being watched, and you carried on walking, and when you looked round, you thought you saw something crouched. And we're talking a cat here, people. He thinks he saw a cat. And the more he looked at it, the lower this thing seemed to get. So you thought you were being stalked. I'm not saying you weren't, Joel, either. I'm just, and I'm told there's a picture with this, which I haven't seen yet. So there you go.
Well, that's interesting in itself. And for those people who join the stream from elsewhere in the world where they don't know the area, can you just tell us where this area is, Paul, and whereabouts in the UK is?
Well, we're in East Yorkshire, so if just Google East Yorkshire and you'll see the location. And this is Dyke. So, and it's an ancient earthwork, 2.5 miles of Neolithic earthwork, really, that cuts across. It cuts Bridlington off from Flamborough, or Flamborough off from the mainland. And as I say, originally it was thought that the Danes built it, so it was named Dyke. But upon excavation back in, I think, late 1800s by a guy called Pitt Rivers, fabulous name. Every time I love saying Pitt Rivers, it sounds like some movie star, doesn't he? But they found hundreds, if not thousands, of stone tools and flint tools, which sort of predated the Vikings. So Dyke,
and it's quite a substantial piece of land that they was trying to cut off. As well.
I think we're talking about an area of 5 miles. It's a peninsula. It's Flamborough Head. It's the peninsula. So you'll see it on the map, and it's interesting because from Flamborough Head, a lot of the anomalies out at sea have taken place in this negative magnetic anomaly, because it's on a very strong negative magnetic anomaly, the entire bit of coastline. So, okay.
Okay, so from the sober carpet, when you have seen the lights under the sea, are they moving or do they just sit there?
They move. When on the 2017, when I was with Bob Brown, we'd walked towards Speet and we're walking back, and I could see them out at sea. And I told Bob, Bob's eyes weren't quite as good as mine, probably better now because he's had his eyes done, he's had some treatment, but I told him I could see him, and he's a bit slower on his feet, is Bob. So I went as fast as I could, running down cliff to this stand where I would just level with them. Bob's probably about half a mile behind me. When he caught up, he could see them clearly because we're looking at them directly. And they moved out to sea. Yeah, they moved out to sea over a period of about 5 minutes, and they'd gone. But it weren't dark, so these were light. So imagine that the photographs in Truth Proof 3, you can see that it's not nighttime; it's early evening.
And these moved as one. Did they keep the same shape?
They moved as one. They moved as one, and as three lights just moved as one. And it's I don't think it's deep enough for some huge object to be under the sea there. But what do I know? Do you know what I mean? We're probably looking at 60 to 80 feet from where they were out at sea.
Okay, and we've got Alan Brown. Have you guys got any new Dogman encounters for the new year?
Well, Alan, you know, a lot of times the new encounters are still historic. They'll be new to your ears and my ears. I got one from Lincolnshire today, and I've not looked into it enough. He sent me a drawing and everything, his interpretation of it, and I've not looked into it enough to talk about it in any detail today. But I'm trying to think of the year he went back to. I think it's 1980s when he was driving along a road, and once again this thing come out onto the road. So an interesting one, and I've already wrote to the guy and asked if we can talk on phone, and I can find a little bit more information about it. You know, cryptid phenomena. How crazy is that? You know, I still have to give my head a good check thinking about it. We've done Wolflands, but you've got to put your faith in people who are telling you these things. And for the most part, I believe that these people are telling me truth. There's something very real to what they're seeing.
I'll just flash this one up, even though you read it out earlier, Paul, just for the people on the stream.
Yeah. And he's right. Ian's right, because Ian was with me when we saw the lights. These are the lights in 2023, and Ian was with me there, and they moved out to the horizon quite quickly. But the next day there was a Navy vessel out there, and how do I know it were a Navy vessel? It's pitch black, because most of the time, you know, when you look at the lights on the horizon, the most of them are just fishing boats. But we've got a thermal camera. You can see the outline of this thing. So, yeah, we knew what it were.
Got this one in from Keith Ladd. Are there any common aspects linking Bempton with the Bermuda Triangle, Paul?
I wouldn't know, Keith. You know, all I know is that the strange things happen there. I'm keen to say, because there's quite a few aircraft gone down in what would be the negative magnetic anomaly. But let's not attach UFOs to them. Let's not attach anything to them. Let's just say that they've gone down in a place where things of an highly unusual nature take place. That's kind of a cop-out, but I think it'd be wrong to say, oh, it's because of UFOs, because I simply don't know, you know, so it'd be wrong to say anything else, you know. So what common aspects linking Bempton? The common aspects are that we've got loads and loads of unusual things happening. There's a story of advanced time off Flamborough Head and Bempton, where a fisherman from Bridlington took a boat party out to fish an area called Ten Wrecks, and it's a 3.5 hour journey to get to Ten Wrecks. And they were going to stop off at what's Head End. Head End is Flamborough Head, obviously. Well, it's not obvious, but it is. And then from there, they were going to go to what's called the 4 Wrecks. So this is self-explanatory. There's 4 wrecks below the surface, then head to 10 wrecks. Total journey of 3.5 hours. They got there 2 hours early. He can't work out how they did it. 1 minute he says we'd passed 4 wrecks, and the next were at 10 wrecks. And the chart plotter, when it started working again, because the radar wouldn't work, the chart plotter wouldn't work, but when they started working again, showed a gap, showed a jump. I only spoke to him about 3 weeks ago, to be honest with you, went over this one again. And he said everything, the sea was smooth, like oil was on the water, no seabirds. They took buckets of bait out with them because they were doing boat fishing over these wrecks with a party of fishermen. And anybody who watches the fishing vessels come back into Bridlington Harbour or go out, they're followed by a swarm of birds because they associate them boats with food. No seabirds. Totally, he said it were like being in eye of a hurricane, or that's what he imagined it would be. Everything were totally silent. So once again, you've gone into this strange zone. There's much more to this story, but if I start going into detail, I'm going to start talking about everything I'm talking about at the Awakening Conference.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and I think the common aspects for me is just picking up what you said is the electromagnetic influence in the area, because I think in the Bermuda Triangle they had a squadron of airplanes that went missing. And there was down. They actually went into the sea. There was no talk of UFOs, I don't think.
No,
maybe strange lights, I don't know. But other than that, I think it was they'd lost all the bearings. They couldn't get back to where they should be. There was miles away from where they thought there was.
Well, you're spot on, and the amount of trawlermen. And I don't mean 10s and 20s, but I've spoke to trawlermen in Bridlington Harbour and at Scarborough who've gone fishing off Head End, Flamborough Head and Bempton, and gone into this 10 to 15 mile zone out at sea, and suddenly compasses aren't working properly. Everything's going stupid. But although they know where they are, that it's not telling them any kind of direction until they've gone past it. When they come back, it doesn't happen. And this will happen once or twice in a fisherman's lifetime. One of them said, and we set the radar to 10 mile, 20 mile, 30 mile. Bearing in mind, they're only like 15 miles off Bempton and Flamborough, and it's just detecting nothing. There's nothing there. So it's like they're in some kind of no man's land. So it's fascinating.
Wow. Right. I've got...
See, Laura's in. Hi, Laura.
Nice.
Nigel.
Yeah. So, hi all. Has anyone...
Say hi, Nigel.
Has anyone ever witnessed a flying platform type object with a person dressed in navy blue/black controlling it? Witnessed it when I was around 8 years old. Thanks.
Wow, that's incredible,
great,
Nigel.
Count. Yeah.
And I've never heard anything like that. When you said a platform type object, it sounds like something from a Marvel comic, mate, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's how incredible that must have been to see, Nigel. And do you know, Nigel, if you ever wanted to come on here and talk about it and share that with the people in chat, please just put your hand up. I mean, we'd love to hear about that. It won't matter if it took 10 minutes or 2 hours. That would be absolutely brilliant. So
yeah, I'd like to know if it was daylight sighting or was it nighttime or...
well, he was 8 years old, so my guessing is, I mean, we know that 8-year-olds are up in night, but I bet it's a daytime sighting. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, and
be a monster. No, man after my own heart. Done.
We're back onto this subject. Well, I won't read it out just for YouTube guidelines. I know we can fall foul of YouTube guidelines.
Well, yeah, what is your gut feeling? Who is responsible? Well, Mark, you know, I suppose in some instances, you can take it down now, Liz, we know what it is. I suppose in some instances, humans are going to be responsible, aren't they, for animal fatalities? But and I'm absolutely certain in my mind, after spending best part of 2.5 years on those fields up on the cliffs at East Yorkshire, that it weren't humans that were doing that. And I don't know any animal that will remove the skin from another animal's face, remove its ears and its eyes, and not touch anything else. Really strange.
Yeah, and along with your good self, I was witness to something similar to what happened to the sheep. And for the life of me, I mean, I'm not a vet, I'm not anything animal wise there, but it looked really, really odd. It really did. And
well, that particular day, we'll just touch on it for 2 minutes. We'd gone with Les's drone, and we were going to just do a little bit of flying of the drone and to get a bit of footage. So, and I used to do these fields 3 to 4 times a week, 4:30 to 8 a.m.
was, I think, Paul.
Yeah, 2018. And the farmer would do them the days that I didn't sort of have a look early morning. He'd probably go at 8 o'clock, but I were there early. I really wanted to discover what we're doing it. I never did. But so we went on, myself and Les, and I thought farmer would have already done field, but they were a dead animal, should we say then. And it was fascinating. And not to be too macabre, whatever had done it had removed the head and the neck down to the breastbone, but had left a tube of wool. That's the weirdest thing, you know. And yeah, so that's as
well. We did have an idea of where the head went, because this was adjacent to 2 fences with a little bit of no man's land in between 2 farms, where the fences are barbed wire and they're about 4 foot high. Now, on looking at the barbed wire fence, the wool was stuck on the barbed wire of the first fence, and it was also stuck on the barbed wire of the other fence, and on the grass at the other farm, it was also slight bits of wool on there, weren't there, Paul?
There were.
So whatever had decapitated this animal had actually gone and took the head over the double fence.
But there were no blood.
And there was no blood. It was completely bloodless.
Yeah. And let's not we'll jump away from these unfortunate animals in a minute, but let's not forget the colour of a sheep. It's like a dirty white colour, and the injuries that they were sustaining would have actually been devastating. Yet there were no blood. Anyway,
okay. So I'll find GC. Was there any report of the glass tunnel syndrome at Thornwick Bay? Someone said in the comments they had an experience there on one of your earlier videos.
One of my...
I think I vaguely remember something there.
Well, yeah. The glass tunnel syndrome that you speak of, or this being enveloped in this glass bubble, that was at Bempton. Now, any reports at Thornwick Bay kind of tells me, GC, that you might know of one at Thornwick Bay, which is fascinating in itself, or maybe not. You might have just been getting locations mixed up, because there's about 1.5 miles away from where they had their experience. I spoke to this lady, funnily enough, today. Sally and her husband, Tim, who entered this strange, disjointed reality, walking along in the daytime, looking at the seabirds, and suddenly realised that everything had gone silent. They couldn't hear anybody speak, or they couldn't hear anything. I'm going to say anybody. I don't know if people were about. They couldn't hear the seabirds. They couldn't hear the wind. They couldn't hear the sea, just as though they'd been enveloped in a glass tunnel or a glass bubble. Walked out of it. They both noticed it, retraced the steps. Nothing. We're all normal after that. So, any more other reports of that? I'm sure there is, and I might have some. I might have some earlier, GC, that I've not sort of capitalized on. And I'll tell you what would be a good exercise for me to get all those together. Yeah. Because I think it'd be interesting to go through them.
Okay, so let's have a look then.
Martin Abbas, the thumbs up there, mate.
Joe Cates, welcome to the stream, Joe. Fascinating discussion. What are your thoughts on Captain Randy Kramer and his Mars Defense Force revelations? Do you think he's simply crazy, or could there be hints of truth there? If so, how?
I'm sorry, Joe. I wish I could talk with any knowledge on this, but I don't know. I kind of live in my own little glass bubble, just doing my thing. So other people's work, I don't mean it's not worth looking into, but I'm pretty not clued up on it at all.
No, I can't say. Yeah,
I saw Les has wrote it down, so we're probably going to have a look at it so he can tell you next week.
Well, we're on Google. Google's your best friend, but yeah, we'll definitely be looking into that one. But thanks for your question, Joe. Right then, Kerry B. Hi, I'm new to this channel. My partner bought me Truthproof 1 and Wolflands for Christmas. How about that for a great gift? Love them both. Great work.
Thank you, Kerry. I'm glad you enjoyed them. And more to come, hopefully. More to come.
Okay. Right then, here's a good question, I think, from J Leveler. Is there any heat source coming from beneath Bempton?
Do you know? It's an interesting point. I don't know if Lynn is still in, but we were up at one of the big stands. Oh gosh, very cold night, and I would like to say November, but it could have been October, November time. Cold night, and we kept getting gusts of hot air. Let me correct myself. Warm air hitting our faces. 3 people, not imagining it. Warm air on an absolutely really, really sort of cold, bitter night. So I couldn't understand that. But a heat source coming from Bempton, I mean, I don't know. Is that a heat source? It's got to be, hasn't it? But I wouldn't have thought it were thermals coming up the cliffs and things on a cold night. The cold wind were blowing from the sea, but we also were getting hit by warm air. And Linny might know date.
Okay. Right then, a question for Les from Danny Egan, 1878. Question for Les: when does Ghostly Tales start? Hopefully next Wednesday, Danny. So that's all I can say on that one. With a good following wind, it'll be Wednesday. It'll be the first one to go out.
How long they're going to last, Les? Do you know? What?
They're only shorts. They're not unlike the shorts that we're already putting out, Paul. So yeah, along them lines.
Like 4 to 8 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that. You know, as and when we get more research done, probably we'll get more stories into one video. You know, so
yeah,
we'll see how that one goes. It all takes time, folks. It all takes time, as Paul knows. Right then, we've got. Here's a good one. I like this one. Emma Hoyle. And monoliths closely linked to UFO activity.
Monoliths and ancient earthworks do seem to attract unexplained phenomena. Probably not just UFOs, Emma. You know, and I know there's quite a lot of UFO activity being attributed in the area of Rudston. And we've got the tallest standing stone in the UK, the Rudston monolith. I think it's about 28.5 foot tall. So it's taller than the stones at Stonehenge. But I think there is a lot of activity of unexplained phenomena around earthworks and monoliths and standing stones. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely spot on.
And from our own research, Paul, there's a lot of electromagnetic events around these monoliths as well, aren't they? Especially around the Rudston monolith.
Rudston monolith. We took our friend with us. What month was it? October times, September, October. And Peter came up with us, a bit of an electronics expert.
Took some readings.
Took his meters and readings, and we got some really strange results from the Rudston monolith that could be seen on the computer screen and filmed. And it were kicking out some strange readings. And I've been there with Bob Brown, and the EMF meters go absolutely stupid around the Rudston monolith for some reason as well. But there you go.
I'll just put this one up from Joel. It's really all the strange things happening, you know, like Paul and Les say. It's just hard to get your head around, but it's all real. But there's EMFs all over Bridlington, and the
Torridal Fields. Torridal Fields, Joel. Well, you're learning me something there. When I speak to you, you'll have to tell me what these are. It shows my knowledge. But yeah, there's lots there. But do you know, Joel, do you think it might be everywhere? It's just a matter of there's not as many people putting a concentrated effort in. We know that there's zones within the strangeness that seem more rich and concentrated than others for producing unexplained phenomena. But I reckon every town, every locality will have its areas of strangeness. It's probably just the fact that it needs people to be actively researching and having people who are confident enough to share that information with a researcher or with somebody who's going to write about it, and enough trust to know that if they say, I don't want you to talk about it or use my name, you're not doing it. I'm sat on some information and they don't even want me to talk about it. Incredible information. And I just can't do it about certain things. One of them is about a trawler from Hull. That's as close as I dare go with it, because I'd be being unfair to the person who told me. But there you go.
Okay, and right, here we go. Alan Brown, with you, Paul, being out and about all the time, have you had any missing time in your experience?
I haven't, Alan. No, no, not at all. And I'll tell you what I have had: extreme fear. And I've touched on it before, and I think it was 2018 with Steve Ashbridge. It's about 11:30, 12 at night. Could have been after, I don't know. And we were at back end of Danes Dyke, and a fear came over me. And from where, I don't know, and why, I don't know. I felt like I was being watched. There's nothing there. There's only open fields as we were walking that way. Open fields to my left, and the sea to my right. So it was proper fear. And just to touch on it quickly, because we need to get through questions, I realise that. But there's a guy contacted me today, and I'll just call him Mark, and because I'll not go his second name because he might not want me to. He's on them cliff tops all over the place, proper outdoors man. There's a bit of gamekeeping, knows much more about wildlife and than I do, and guns. He's got firearm certificates, and he goes to places all with permissions, all legally. But he were up on the cliff tops on Thursday night, and for the first time, and he don't meet us. He's not somebody who meets us. When he's up there, we meet and we have a chat, but he doesn't come up like Ian, Pete, and Bob. He'll just go up there on his own, and we'll know where he is. We can see him just walking about. We'll see a light go on odd times. But he were up there Thursday night. We weren't up there because of the live stream. And he said all of a sudden, an extreme fear just descended on him. Felt jumpy, felt like there were eyes on him, felt like something were going to jump out on him. Really, really sort of unnerved him. Carried on walking and it lifted. Walked back the same way and it had gone. And that's never happened to him before. And he only contacted me today because if we'd have had nothing to talk about, people, we were going to talk about the fear factor. There it is. Mm-hmm. Because that's what I thought, well, we'll just see how many questions we get in. So we'll keep the questions.
Great questions in tonight, Paul. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And thank you.
Right. I've got a... Rich White is asking, does Paul and Elaise have a favourite paranormal TV show, e.g. Skinwalker Ranch type show?
No, I don't watch them, and it's same with reading books. They're wasted on me, and not because they're not good, not because these TV shows aren't good, not because books aren't good. I've kind of got the attention span of a fly, and I just can't. I don't do it. Tell a lie. I've been watching a TV program called Carnival Row, which I find fascinating.
Yeah,
it's on Sky or something. That has interested me. I'll watch one every night.
I think for myself, I've got to go way back in time to the first series of the X-Files, because I know the first series were actually taken from the X-Files. You know, these were supposedly true stories.
Okay.
And then as the series went on, there was less and less attributable to real events. So yeah, that's kind of how far I'm going back on that one, Paul.
Yeah.
But nothing recent, really.
I can see questions there, and do we need? We've got 10 minutes. Do we need to rattle through these? As Paul listened to the Haunted podcast, they talk about I don't know anything about this, Gren. I'd love to learn about it. I'll make a note of that.
Okay, he follows on with Gren still follows on with Werewolf and Canuck, even.
Werewolf in Canuck. No, but it's strange you should say that. There's this is something I need to follow up, and I'll keep it quick because I'm aware we've got like 10 minutes or less left. But when we put the the tent up, myself and Bob, for the guy who lived in Danes Dyke. And another guy came with us, and his partner's from Cannock Chase, and she's got some stories to tell us about such things. She lives right on the edge of Cannock. She did. She lives in Bridlington now. It's so small world. Come on, let's give us some more.
Okay, right. I'm going to throw this one from Lee. What does Paul think about the strange Mr. Fog appearing around UFOs, hiding amongst it? So,
I don't know. I mean, could it just be a byproduct of whatever it is that's keeping them in the air? I don't know. 1977, when Leslie Butler and her workmates saw that one at Bessingby, there was a cloud around it that kind of dissipated, and then they heard it humming. So I don't know. It's all speculation. Are they appearing to hide in it? I don't know. Could be. You know.
Okay, another follow-up from Lee. Question, Paul, what did the Macron scientists have to do with the Rendlesham mystery? The Macron scientists, do you know about those?
I don't know enough about it to talk about it. Are we on about Marconi? Because if you are, then there is some information on this, and it might be something to talk about in a week or two. Because
okay, yeah,
I know some of them. There's some controversy about some of them being deceased.
Sorry, I probably misread your question there, Lee. We'll get some more info on that, won't we, Paul? Yeah. And Martin Abbas, let's have a look. With warm air from the cliffs, could that be microwaves or radiation of some other kind? If so, do you think you ever use a Geiger counter?
Yeah, we have used a Geiger counter. We've got one. Chris Turner's got it at the moment for some stuff he's been doing around Bolton. But we used a Geiger counter on the animal fatalities, should we say. But we'd not used one up there, Martin, in connection with the warm air. So it might have been worth doing. We have taken microwave meters up there. And they've got, with Peter, who we were on about around the Rudston Monolith, and they've gone off the scale, which is quite unnerving, really, isn't it? So, yeah.
Okay. And I've got to put this question up from 1423. When you felt that warm air on your faces, did anyone look up?
Yeah, we looked up. We looked over the cliffs. We stood to the right, to the left. Seriously, we did. We really did, 23, and that's a good question. I'm glad, because it's given us a chance to say that. I mean, it might still be in Linny, but I don't know. But maybe he wants to come on and talk about it, or somebody else, because I like it when you've got a bit of backup, because I know that other people were with me.
Phil H4, has Paul ever had any experience with people he believes could be Men in Black?
Not Men in Black so much. I had a strange experience at the bottom of our road a few years ago with this guy who were telling me I were bringing down the light, which was a strange thing to be telling me, and a strange appearance. Strange guy. And Phil, we've got sort of 8 minutes, otherwise I'd go into that. I'm sure time would be up before I'd finished it.
Yeah, and that's all the questions I've got through at the moment, Paul.
Could have finished it.
You could have a little bit, if you want to go into a little bit.
Well, what happened, and I wish I could remember the year, but something tells me it was 2014. It could have been, I reckon it was 2014. It was 2014, not something tells me. It was. And I'd been given by Jessica, who sometimes was moderating for us, my daughter. She'd give me a mobile phone, and I went to have it unlocked at the shop just around the corner, literally 200 or 300 yards away on the main promenade, myself and Mary. Very cold day. I think it was November, but sun was shining, but it's one of them bitter cold days. And there's a guy stood at the other side of the road with his shirt off, leant against the wall. And there's a bike against him, which I didn't take much notice of at first. And as I came out, and he's about 40 yards away, he started shouting. And I'm not, it could have been anybody. I don't know, he's shouting at me. And I shut the gate, come out, and I looked across, and he's shouting at me, and he's talking about the light. And I haven't taken in what he's talking about at that point. I'm mindful at time, so I just shouted over, yeah, enjoy the sun, mate. We've only got a few weeks left, and then we're going to be full into winter. And he'd got his shirt off. It were odd, but a bright sunny day, but cold. Walked round corner, said to Mary, I said, he was strange, wasn't he? I said, you're a bit weird. So he carried on shouting as we went round corner. It must have unnerved me because I considered going back other way because it's on like a big horseshoe. But I didn't. I come back the same way. As I'm coming back round, down Lansdowne Road, he's sat on our side of the street now with his back to me, but I knew it were him because he had a really unusual build. He was built like an action man, if that makes sense. They were, just literally look, and his skin looked like Spam. But he's got a tight-fitting dark brown jumper on, and I knew it were him. So before I got to him, he turned round and looked at me. And he goes, you've got to stop what you're doing. You're bringing down the light. And I said, sorry, you what? He says, you know what you're doing. You're causing lots of trouble. You're bringing down the light. So we got into this, not argument, but this, I don't know, I couldn't get away from it. A strange discussion about bringing down the light and I was causing lots of problems. And and at one point, he just reached out and just touched my wife on the shoulder. And I'm looking at this bloke and he's, I don't know how old he had to gauge because he'd got full wrap round sunglasses on, bald head, quite muscular. And I'm just about ready to get to grips with him, I'll be honest with you. And an outcome probably would have been bad for me because, I'm 61, I'd have been in my 50s. But nevertheless, but then he stopped. He said, I'm not talking about her, I'm talking to you. You're bringing down the light. You have to stop. And in the end, I just had enough of him and I walked off and we'd done. The barber at the bottom of the street had observed all of this and said he'd been waiting for us. We are going to film this and actually do this account for a documentary or part of what we're doing. And John, the barber, if anybody knows him, feel free to ask him, put me on the spot. He observed it all. He'd observed him before we come out. And they thought he were unusual. And I say they, the people in the barber shop who'd been watching this man. So that's just in a nutshell. I'm sorry to condense it, but there you go. And 4 minutes to go. And
we have got to go at the top of the hour.
There's Carl Dan. Hi, Carl. And Amanda, Bobby Dazzler, Tino, Keith Lard, Alan Brown. Yeah, it's lovely to see all these people in. And Steph, Emma Hoyle. That's brilliant.
So, Steve. And at this point then, I've got to say thanks to Danny Egan and Karen Beerman for the super chats and super stickers. Great for the donations. Always helps the channel. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel as well. Obviously, people aren't subscribing enough.
Yeah.
And that way you can get the notifications through. Yeah.
Can I just get one in here as well? Because a guy contacted me via Facebook and said, Paul, do I have to subscribe every time I come onto your channel? So please message us if this is happening to you, because he said he subscribes. And then when he comes back on, he has to resubscribe.
I think it's been happening to some YouTubers, Paul. But make sure you click all when you do subscribe, and you click on the all button. That way you should stay subscribed. But yeah, it has happened to some people. And just at this point, with a couple of minutes to go, I'll just mention the Truth Proof webpage. And so a little bit of plugging of your books here, Paul, and what people.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, the books.
So Truth Proof webpage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to remove the Christmas gift because that's gone. But obviously, the books are available through the website truthproof.uk. And there they are. You can also get the DVD on the website, the Wolflands DVD. There it is. And if you want the Kindle version of the books, they're on Amazon. And if you want to look at Wolflands, you can also look at that on Amazon Prime. And I've just noticed another question. And Don wanted me to ask something tonight, and I've not had a chance, so apologies, Don. And somebody said, Paul, do you believe in life after death? I'm sorry to sound a bit macabre by just saying that, because I know we've got 2 minutes left, and I believe there's something. Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah, I do. And I'm sure that a lot of people in chat believe that there's something after this. Just what it is, though, I don't know.
Well, I bloody hope so, Paul. I bloody hope so. Yeah.
I'm getting closer to it than most people now at 61. But there you go. It's something we can't avoid, innit? There's only two things that are sure in life. Well, there's one thing that's sure.
Yeah, that's one. But yeah, one thing. Well, two things in it: taxes and death.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So on that note, on that cheerful note, folks, we got to go. We are out of here for a Sunday night. We'll be back on Thursday with a new guest. I can't remember offhand who it is, Paul.
It's Les Durant.
Les
And
Durant.
We're going to be talking UFOs, and he's a great guy, a font of knowledge. So that would be brilliant. Thank you, Alison, for doing moderating. Thanks everybody for supporting us. And Minnie Moose, great to see you awake. I love this name, Colin. It's great just to say hello to people. Kim King, Welsh Dragon.
We've got to go.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Yeah. Good night, and see you next time.